Coming to you from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPTA 20, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I am John Parker. We are 33 minutes after the hour. Windy City Times has been the voice of Chicago's LGBTQ plus community since 1985. This year marks the news outlet's 40th anniversary of uplifting queer stories, reporting with pride, and chronicling LGBTQ plus history. Visit windycitytimes.com/newsletters to sign up for the publication's weekly LGBTQ plus news updates. Jake Wittich is managing editor of Windy City Times, where he reports in-depth stories on Chicago's LGBTQ plus community and oversees the publication's growing news operation. Because of some fun internet issues, he joins us by phone right now. Hey, Jake, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Well, I also want to say, and Brett in the control room, cue up that applause. Jake was just named Journalist of the Year by the Chicago Journalists Association. Jake, congratulations.
Thank you so much. I am so stunned. I'm used to being recognized within the queer community, but to be recognized by the larger journalism community is just so cool. So thank you very much.
How did you find out? Was there a call in the morning, with the Oscars?
So I got an email about a week ago. I had been out partying on a Sunday with my friend's kickball team, and then I woke up the next morning a little too tired. I checked my email, and the subject line was just congratulations, and I opened it, and it was a letter letting me know I was named Journalist of the Year by the Chicago Journalists Association. I never applied for this. I don't know if someone nominated me. I have no clue, but it was a complete shock to me, and I'm just so grateful to be recognized.
Well, congratulations. It is well-deserved, and we know that because we've been hosting you here and lucky to have you here every other Wednesday sharing your award-winning journalism with us. And you're here to follow up on a couple of stories, one of which I'm very curious to hear about. So Chicago Alderperson Fuentes has filed a lawsuit against ICE. Let's start with, what was the incident that led to this lawsuit?
Yeah, exactly. And I misspoke in my email to you. I want to emphasize it's not a formal lawsuit yet. What she filed is a claim that could be a precursor to a lawsuit. So she's taking legal action over this incident that basically happened, I think it was October 3rd, so earlier this month at Humboldt Park Health. Alderperson Jessie Fuentes, she responded to the hospital because she heard that a man was injured during an encounter with ICE. As I've been talking about on the show before, immigration enforcement officials, or ICE, are doing a big operation here in Chicago right now. And there was a man that they basically had detained. He broke his leg during the encounter, and the alderperson heard he was being held at the hospital without lawyers. So she responded to the hospital to support this man, and there were two federal agents in the hospital room with him. And she was like, why are you arresting him? What's he under arrest for? He has constitutional rights. Where's your warrant? And they were telling her, you're not allowed to be here. And she was like, no, I'm in a public place. I was invited by the hospital. They told me people were concerned about what's happening here. So she held her ground, and the one of the federal agents, who was not wearing a mask, which is rare for them, he very suddenly grabs her, turns her around, and starts putting her in handcuffs and tells her, we're going to arrest you because you're impeding our operation. So that is what happened. And yesterday she filed a federal claim over that incident. It's under the Federal Tort Claims Act, which basically allows people to seek damages if they've been harmed by a wrongful act committed by a federal employee while they're doing their job. So that's what Alderperson Jessie Fuentes is saying happened. And it's all about holding people in power accountable right now, is what she says.
And for folks who are like, alderperson, what is that? So if you don't have an alderperson in your city, that's basically the city council members. And so this is one of the highest officials in the entire city of Chicago.
Exactly. Chicago is split up into 50 different wards. So they're kind of like neighborhoods is what I would explain them as, but we have separate neighborhoods as well. And each alderperson is basically like a mini mayor of their ward. So they weigh in on everything from zoning and development changes to citywide bills that they get to vote on in city council.
Okay, so what do we know? What are actually, something I wanted. Is it fair of me to characterize what ICE is doing this way? That they have a very broad definition of what impeding their work is, and then they're
I
just
think
able to
so.
just do whatever they want because it's so broad and vague.
It does sound like that. They're trying to claim that even people, so people are very organized in Chicago about protecting their neighbors against being abducted from ICE or by ICE. And basically, I've seen videos of people filming ICE's actions in neighborhoods, or there's instances where people, including alderpersons and state reps, are following ICE agents and blowing whistles in their cars to alert the community. This is an ICE agent right here. Like, be careful, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of these encounters, it sounds like the ICE agents or the federal government is trying to argue that those actions to protect their neighbors are impeding with their federal investigation. So
Mm-hmm. So the things that we are able to do constitutionally, free speech regarding officers, we can't do with ICE. It's the more I've gotten into this story, both through your reporting and with others, about how ICE just seems to they do live in a completely different legal reality than
they're
everybody
almost acting
else.
lawless. Yeah.
I mean, they have like their own judicial system. They have their own, like, they don't have to do Miranda rights. They can cover their faces. It's just it's wild to me. But on the face coverings, do I have it correctly that Chicago ruled that they can no longer do that?
Yeah, there was a judge who issued a temporary restraining order, basically saying that the agents cannot wear face coverings. They have to wear body cameras. Whether or not the judge is being listened to, I'm not sure. I've seen some videos where it looks like they're still covering their faces, and I don't know how true it is that they're wearing body cameras, or if they are they turned on? I saw one instance shared by a reporter where it seemed like the body cameras, although on their bodies, were not turned on. So
Mhm.
there are judges that are trying to ruling that ICE has to act within certain boundaries, but it's to be seen whether they're going to listen.
We are talking with Jake Wittich, managing editor of the Windy City Times, Journalist of the Year 2025 by the Chicago Journalists Association. He is joining us by phone. Jake, what happens next now in this? So, Alderperson Fuentes has filed the claim. Where does it go from here?
Yeah, it's going to be reviewed by I think a federal agency, and they're going to get back basically on whether or not she can pursue with a lawsuit on this claim. She's seeking $100,000 in damages. The sense I'm getting from just talking to her and reading other stories where she's interviewed is she's not really doing this for the money. It's more so for the statement of we have to hold people accountable. And um, yeah, that's it. These ICE agents violated her constitutional rights, the man in the hospital's constitutional rights, and she wants to make sure that they're held to account for that.
Does, I mean, is this a case that could ultimately end up before the Supreme Court?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not like an expert in this area, so I would have to ask someone else to weigh in there.
Okay. All right. Well, I know that we will be staying tuned to your reporting on what happens next in this story. I appreciate that Alderperson Fuentes is trying to put some accountability here on ICE, because it just seems like they can do whatever they want. So I'll be curious to see how the case proceeds, or the
Yeah, I
complaint
mean,
the
this has been
complaint
going on in
proceeds.
Chicago for like 2 months now, so it's just crazy.
Well, and that's what I wanted to get to next, because Chicago had a No Kings rally this past weekend, one of over 2,500 that were in the United States. You were on the ground there. Tell us about what you saw.
Yeah, it was a massive rally. The estimate is 250,000 people. which is way larger than the No Kings rally that happened earlier this year, I think in June. I think that one had about 75,000 people, so really huge turnout here. And the anger that Chicagoans are feeling at ICE and the federal agencies that are invading our city was really palpable. There were just so many signs saying melt ICE or using expletives to denounce ICE's actions. And people are just very, very upset about ICE's actions here, and it showed in the turnout.
What happened? So you had a massive turnout. I was curious to talk to you about the difference because when we saw images from other cities like here in the Twin Cities, it was there was I think a different vibe. There had to be a different vibe than what you all are dealing with in Chicago right now, because you are like ground zero currently. I mean, there was Los Angeles earlier this year.
Right.
Portland is like next here. Or am I blanking? Is that Seattle? But you all, for the past couple months here, have been ground zero for ICE actions, for the ire of the Trump administration. You have a huge turnout. Good signs, I'm assuming. What were people saying there on the ground?
Yeah, people were mad. The biggest thing I was hearing was just, we need ICE out of our city. But there's also a lot of solidarity among communities happening right now. I was there looking for any rainbow signs I could find as a clue, like that's a queer person I should be talking to. So there's a lot of queer people that are angry about all issues, from ICE to the attacks on the trans community, to defunding healthcare, and so many different things. So it's across the board. It was a giant rally, I should say that. A huge rally, and then it turned into a march on the streets. They marched to Trump Tower and then ICE's downtown offices in Chicago. So there was a lot. And the speakers ranged from our mayor and Governor J.B. Pritzker to Shannon Lynn Parker, who's the new CEO of Equality Illinois.
Oh, wow. Okay, so there was quite the lineup.
Yeah, huge lineup. The governor was fired up. Some people were even saying it almost felt like a kickoff to a presidential campaign. But he really said, like, this is about standing up to authoritarianism. Like, we can't surrender. There's an existential threat to our democracy right now, and it's a moral imperative, is what he said, that people stand up and take action at the moment.
I think people are waiting every day now to hear when that's going to come from Governor Pritzker, an announcement. I am curious about Mayor Johnson. Was it this speech or over the weekend elsewhere where he was talking about having a general strike?
Yes. And, there's a lot of debate on whether or not he really called for a general strike. If you read the transcript, it could be interpreted in multiple ways, but he was talking about how his ancestors, who were enslaved people in the United States, led a general strike. And he was just, I don't have the transcript in front of me, so I want to be careful with how I say this. There's so much debate online. But he was saying we need action right now. And if people can come together for a general strike back then, we can do it now. Whether or not he meant a general strike or just come together for collective action is to be debated. So.
Okay. What happens now? I know that the organizing, for a lot of cities, there was the protest, the march, however they were organizing it, and then they kind of go back to their day-to-day lives. In Chicago, you all don't have that luxury. What is now happening next in terms of resisting ICE and the Trump administration?
Yeah, I mean, a lot more of these know your rights trainings, a lot more of how to join trainings on how to join a rapid response team. So if ICE is in your area, you know how to properly respond, how to protect your neighbors, how to film and document best practices there. So I see a lot more mobilization on that front. A lot of elected officials, from alder people all the way up to Congress people, are holding town halls about ICE in Chicago and doing these kinds of trainings so that people can get involved.
We are talking with Jake Wittich, managing editor of Windy City Times and Chicago Journalists Association's Journalist of the Year. We've got more with Jake when we come back. You're listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 KTNF and WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. We are currently on the phone with Jake Wittich, who is managing editor of Windy City Times, and also can I get that applause again? Can I get that applause again? Because I would love to celebrate.
Oh, let me see if I can get it.
Brett's gonna get it. I'm committing to this, Jake. I'm committing to it.
Oh, it's worth it.
Right.
We got to get the applause.
It's
Here
so
we go.
worth it. Jake Wittich, the Journalist of the Year by the Chicago Journalists Association. Truly well earned. Okay, Jake, there is a story that you were also reporting on that is sad. It's a
Yeah.
bummer of a story, but also I wanted to take the opportunity to celebrate it as well because Miss Majors should be celebrated. So tell us about your reporting there around who Miss Majors is and her passing.
Yeah, so Miss Major is a trailblazing Black transgender activist. She was at the Stonewall riots, actually, and she's done a lot throughout her lifetime to really support not just trans people, but people of color, people who are experiencing incarceration, just so many different marginalized groups. And unfortunately, she did pass away a couple weeks ago on October 13th at 78 years old. So it's very sad. She touched the lives of so many, but I do want to say, like, it is something worth celebrating that a Black trans woman can live to 78 years old and have such an impact in her life. So it's sad, but her life is there's so much to celebrate there.
So tell us about the impact that she had, particularly in Chicago.
Yeah, so Miss Major, she was born on the south side of Chicago in 1946. So she spent time here growing up, and then she moved to New York City in 1962. So it wasn't too long she was in Chicago, but long enough, formative years. And then in New York is where she got involved in the city's drag and underground ballroom scenes. That's like voguing, and for people who don't understand what ballroom is and maybe think like the the ballroom different kind of dancing. But anyway, so she got involved in a lot of different things, but her life really centered on activism for the most marginalized people. So she cared for people in New York who were living with HIV in the 1980s. Later, she moved to San Francisco and helped with the city's first needle exchange program. And then she also mentored incarcerated trans women and advocated for prison reform when she was leading the Transgender, Gender Variant, and Intersex Justice Project. So she's had her hand in a lot of different things. And recently, her initiative was the House of Gigi, which is a retreat for Black trans people in Arkansas.
Oh, so tell us more about that retreat.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's designed to be a space where people who are doing the work, doing the activism can come and rest. Because Miss Major really believed that resting and taking care of yourself is just as important for the movement as the on the ground fighting. We need to rest so that we have the energy to return to the fight. So that was the House of Gigi, and I actually spoke with Carter Cavazos. He spent some time he spent a week at the House of Gigi in September. So just a few weeks before Miss Major's passing. And Carter works for E3 Radio, which is a queer-owned radio station here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a very special bond with Miss Major and got to give me a little bit of an inside look at what it was like at that retreat.
What did he share with you?
Yeah, he said it was just amazing. They were really catered to. The fridge, like they filled out a form ahead of time. What snacks do you like? What drinks do you like? The fridge was full. There was a pool, so much kinds of stuff. And he said Miss Major was really strict about making sure they unplugged. If she saw them on their phone, she'd be like, get off the phone and get in the pool. Get off your phone and go grab a drink. And there's signs all throughout the retreat. It's a home in Arkansas that are reminders of Miss Major, of her. She has her catchphrases like Talifi, which is tell it like it. Expletive is. So there's that. And then there's signs throughout the house that were installed before her death that said, Miss Major, I'm still here, that were meant to be a testament to her longevity. But now that she's passed, they take on a new meaning. And that although she's no longer here physically, she is still here through the many people she inspired and the lives that she's touched.
Mm-hmm. If folks want to, is it an application process to go to House of Gigi?
I'm not too sure. I know she invited the E3 radio team herself. They had met her at the Creating Change conference, and had been interviewing her every year at that conference. And she just really took a liking to the E3 team, because how could you not? They're amazing people. So they were invited there, and I'm not sure what the future of House of Gigi is. But I'm sure it's going to continue. But yeah, I'm not too sure those details.
Well, thank you very much, Jake, for joining us today. And we had to get around some internet issues. So thank you for joining us by phone.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And you can visit windycitytimes.com/newsletters to sign up for Windy City Times' weekly LGBTQ news updates. Jake manages all of those for you. Head to windycitytimes.com/newsletters. You can also follow Jake on Blue Sky. Just search for Jake Wittich, Wittich. And that is going to do it for us today. Thanks everyone for listening and or watching. Be sure to tune in to youtube.com/@thegailey show. We've got all sorts of interviews and archives of our live episodes, breaking news through our shorts. Up next on WCPT 820 is Choose Views with Richard Chu. On AM 950 Radio, it is the Matt McNeil Show. Stay tuned after that for Native Roots Radio, the only Native American radio show in the United States on a daily basis. And then at 10 p.m. Central, step into the unknown with Greg Bakken on Ghost Box Radio. And until this time tomorrow, keep it queer, America.